The commissioner of the Big West joins us on the Big Mountain.
The college football carousel never stops turning, so we're back on the Big Mountain to talk about it with a very special guest.
Hey, welcome back to the Big Mountain. I am JY. This is my good friend Steve. As Steve said, we have a very special guest, the commissioner of the Big West. Dan Butterly is joining us here on the Big Mountain. We want to talk about the conference. We want to talk about some membership changes, and we need to talk about the NCAA Division I proposed governance changes. Commissioner Butterly put out his statement here on Monday, so we want to talk to him about that and what he feels are maybe the pros and cons of the changes to NCAA governance. So with that, let's get into it. All right, and we are very excited to have the commissioner of the Big West Conference, Dan Butterly, joining us here on the Big Mountain. Welcome to the channel.
Truly excited to be here. Definitely appreciate the name Big Mountain. Hopefully big means west, but also understand that there's a Big Sky and other conferences out west as well. So,
well, we appreciate your time. You know, I saw a write-up that you had done for the conference here on Monday, really got my attention regarding the governance or proposed governance here for the NCAA. We absolutely are going to get to that here in this discussion. Want to hear a little bit more from you, see if there's more color you can add to that. But I'd love to just start off with, you giving us and our viewers a brief overview of the Big West Conference here, some recent successes that you've had. Obviously, we're coming off of the spring sports, but all of the 24-25 collegiate school year here, and just would love to hear from you on how things went there for the Big West.
well, I think obviously 24-25, the academic year so far, we still have track and field and baseball to go and softball to be played in the NCAA championship yet, but it's been an outstanding year for the Big West. I took over as commissioner back in May of 2020, officially started July 1st, but left the Mountain West after 21 years to take the leadership here during COVID. Nothing like coming on board 2 months into the COVID pandemic and trying to manage that on a daily basis. But, I had goals and aspirations for the Big West. I know the Big West, we're not an FBS football conference. We're very much right now 21 sports in the Big West. None of them are football. So I know the resources. We have to be a little bit more financially responsible. In the Big West, we have to play Moneyball in many ways. So I try to use data and analytics and research and other things to help us form decisions and schedule smarter, not harder, is somewhat the philosophy we've got in the Big West. And this year we've had a great season, our best men's basketball season since Comm started doing his rankings back in, I think, 1998. We inherited a league that was in the mid-20s in rankings in men's basketball, and we got it to a top 10 league this year. I think we finished 12th. Obviously, you had some really good teams, with one going to the national championship game in the NIT, and UC San Diego losing just by a bucket to Michigan and Denver. So just in the basketball space, but just in the last 10 days, we've had 4 teams in 3 different Final Fours, water polo, beach volleyball, and we had 2 teams in the men's volleyball Final Four, ultimately winning a national championship. Long Beach State beating UCLA in 3 sets to win the national championship for the Big West. So again, outstanding season so far. I think baseball has a great run ahead of it here in the NCAA baseball championships and the College World Series, but excited where we're going. It's just obviously now always the trend is can we maintain it, be consistent, and maintain the success.
That's great. I got to say, you mentioned Moneyball, one of my favoriteest movies of all time. I have an accounting degree, so the analytical side of things, I just love that movie. I could watch it over and over again. Not a huge baseball guy, but the way they go about that is fantastic. But anyway, only the bold, I believe, is your slogan. I love the slogan. We're going to get into maybe the boldness of both your leadership and the conference here in a little bit.
Yep.
Would love to turn maybe to membership. I mean, membership is the conference. The conferences are in existence right now to help their members achieve their goals. I would like to go into just some membership changes here. Obviously, that realignment is what everybody loves to talk about, speculate about. We certainly do some of that here on the Big Mountain. The ripple effects of the USC UCLA change is still ongoing kind of here, especially in the West Coast. I mean, we've seen what's going on with the Mountain West and the Pac. We've covered that very, very closely, being a Mountain West centric channel and Pac as well. As we know, and our viewers, if they follow us, know both Hawaii and UC Davis looking to move and go to the Mountain West here in 2026. Of course, that's everything except for football with UC Davis. And I believe back in March, it was announced that California Baptist, CBU, will be joining the Big West here as a full member in 26 as well. So you have some changes to membership here. Can you talk about maybe how the conference has planned for that? And how strategic you have been looking at either backfilling or expanding here into the future?
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's unfortunate what's happening to Western realignment, and it always seems to happen in the East, the South, the North. Didn't necessarily hit the West. And it's unfortunate FBS football decisions are shaking up what was really many good athletic conferences in the West. But it's the fate. It's what happens. I've been in a conference office for over 30 years, working in the Missouri Valley. We added member institutions while I was there. Obviously, the Mountain West is always changing. We added institutions, lost institutions when I was in the league for 21 years. And now in the Big West. The Big West has been known in many ways over its history for having a significant number of member institutions, even when it had football back in the 90s and early 2000s, went all the way out to the Louisiana territory to pick up football schools at that time. So we're familiar with realignment. We've got a great membership in the Big West that are very much like-minded. We hated to lose UC Davis and Hawaii to the Mountain West, but we've got to keep moving forward, keep doing great things. We're excited to add California Baptist University. It's right here in our footprint, a great institution. Their sport profile matches the Big West in many ways, so it made it a great fit. People often question a first private institution into a very much a public league, but our institutions were very excited to add a private institution and really diversify our membership a bit. And I can tell you we're not done. We've got time here in the weeks ahead. The June 30 is always circled on commissioners' calendars across the country. That's generally the date that institutions have to notify whether they're going to be member institutions a year following. So June 30, 2025 would be the notification date if an institution is going to change by July 1st, 2026. So we're having active discussions with multiple institutions that are excited about the direction of the Big West and where we're going, and hope to make some announcements here soon.
Well, that's awesome. And further into that, I mean, you're very much California centric, pretty much entirely now with Hawaii leaving. There has been some talk about maybe looking eastward. Utah Valley has come up. Can you talk about, the footprint of the Big West? You talk about like-minded, and I can understand certainly all of that. But there's only, so many universities and schools within a certain footprint. So is there a concerted effort to look outside of California, or is it really just, hey, what is the best fit and what is the like-minded type of universities? Location, of course, being important, but maybe not the top of the priority list. Can you speak to that maybe a bit more?
Absolutely, more than happy to. So, one of the things I talk about membership, it's got to be a right fit for a conference as well as a right fit for an institution. So it's very much like Cinderella's slipper. You got to make sure the fit is right before you make that commitment, because once an institution's in, it's generally tough for an institution to be let go in many ways. So we've looked at institutions. One of our chancellors at one of our great universities indicated during one of our board of directors meetings back in October, November, he said, hey, we just got to remember, everyone, we're the Big West. We're not the Big California. So as we look ahead to membership, we obviously are looking at institutions that are very much like-minded, more than likely not football based, because we're not football based in that respect. So as we look at institutions, we're looking in the Western footprint, not just in California.
Great. And on that piece, I mean, we have focused a little bit here more recently on maybe the new model. And I'm going to bring up NIU and what they have done here. They've pulled football away from the rest of the sports, looking to add football to the Mountain West, but then becoming a little bit more regionalized there with the rest of the sports. Do you see that as maybe a new model that could be coming down the pike for more institutions, and with that potentially helping the Big West in that regard with membership?
Gentlemen, I'm a proponent of the FBS football splitting off from the rest of the NCAA and trying to get more realistic, try to help our student athletes across the country, no matter what institution they play in, to get a little bit more regional, to save the wear and tear on themselves. In many ways, we have a generation that's dealing with mental health issues, the impact of COVID, and those type of things. So to be in a position that the college football playoff or FBS football, which really isn't managed by the NCAA anyway, splits off and does their own thing, I think would be a benefit to the rest of the student athletes across the country in many ways. So yes, I think that it's a model, Northern Illinois. It's a model that I think other institutions might be considering going down the road here at what's best for their overall athletic program, not just the football programs.
Fantastic. One last thing on membership, and maybe Steve will have any follow-ups, but one school that we have followed very closely here, Sacramento State University, making a lot of noise there in California and really nationally with a lot of different things that they have going on. I just have to ask, not looking for a bombshell or anything coming from you here, but clearly UC Davis is in that Sacramento market. And with them obviously leaving, it's well known now that Sacramento State is looking to move independent in football. So they're looking potentially for a home for their other sports. It looks unlikely that the Big Sky would allow them to stay. Anything there, any interest in maintaining that market? I just have to bring them up because it's a school that we have followed here pretty closely.
No, I absolutely 100% understand the question. And obviously Sacramento State's got to figure out their football piece first before they could decide the rest of the membership issue. I know they've submitted an application to the NCAA to be potentially independent in FBS football. Obviously, Sacramento State is a affiliate member institution in 3 sports currently in the Big West. So I've got a good relationship with Mark Orr, but would not want to make any comments until they figure out the football piece first.
Totally understand. Had to ask. And I believe, speaking of affiliate organizations, I believe I saw that Hawaii will still have some affiliate sports within the Big West moving forward. Is that correct as well?
That's very accurate, Jason. And we're in a position, Hawaii's not a great fit. Their sport profile is not a great fit. A total package for the Mountain West. So they have 4 sports that the Mountain West does not conduct sports sponsorship in. So those 4 sports will remain in the Big West. I'm excited that we get to keep, obviously, men's volleyball, women's water polo, and other sports in the Big West for Hawaii.
Fantastic. That's great. Let's move to unless there's anything with membership, Steve.
Well, I'm going to save most of my time for governance and settlement follow-up questions. However, I just want to say, Commissioner, I love your quote there on separating FBS football, from the rest of the Olympic sports. And I'm already just picturing in my mind that NIU model. We talk about Sacramento State, and I understand Commissioner can't really speak on Sac State too much right now. A lot of things in play, but I could see that model working there where Sac State moves up their football program and then maybe finds a home, with their Olympic programs here. So I love your quote. I love your idea. I agree with you 100%. And I hope, I think if we got guys in the room like yourself, the NIU AD Frazier, the UTEP AD
Center,
yes, the people with experience running things on a budget, playing money ball, dealing with logistics that don't have unlimited budgets. I think if we got you guys in the room, we could fix a lot of the problems right now. So that's all I'm going to say right there.
Well, let's talk about getting in the room.
Okay.
And we're going to go to the proposed governance here. Yep. So the NCAA put out a video and just some items here about a week ago regarding, again, this proposed new NCAA D1 governance structure. And I'm going to throw up some slides here so our viewers, maybe if they haven't been paying attention, they don't know what we're talking about. I have a couple slides I'm just going to put on the screen, give it a pause so you can maybe better understand what is being proposed here. But there was an article here, I believe it came out on Monday, the bold type, I saw it on your website. And there was a section here entitled "Only the Bold Stand for Fairness." Really got my attention. Loved everything that you had to say here. And you discussed, this proposed model, a dramatic reshape of college sports. You stated, in your opinion, that this really isn't a positive change, at least not for the Big West and maybe broader. We'll get into that. and in really handing unchecked control to the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, the Power Four, as everybody calls them right now. Want to throw out just a few quotes that you said, and would love to see if you can add more color here for us. But one quote was, "This is not shared governance. This is consolidation of power by the very conferences, institutions, and leadership that help drive the NCAA into the current legal and financial crisis." Also, you went on to say, "This isn't bold leadership. This is power consolidation masquerading as progress." Some strong, but I think fantastic wording. I totally agree with this. Again, I'll stop there. We're going to love to have some back and forth, but I'd love to see if you can provide a bit more color on that. You hear a lot that's coming from the P4, and I don't think we hear enough that's coming from everybody else. And the everybody else is a ton of conferences and membership of those conferences. So would love to hear from you on kind of your wording in that statement and any other color you can give us.
No, I appreciate that, Jason. I mean, obviously, it's extremely frustrating. I'm serving on so many different NCAA committees right now, trying to be a voice for those of us that aren't the Power Four conferences, that aren't maybe FBS conferences, that want to remain Division I, are committed to Division I, or committing to the settlement if it ever gets approved. I mean, we're doing things the right way in the Big West. As I indicated, we had 4 teams in 3 different Final Fours this past 10-day period. We are competitive in NCAA Division I. We don't have football. Football is not run by the NCAA, but the football is dictating what's going on in the future of the NCAA. And that's where some of the frustration comes into play. I'm hopeful. It's funny. I write a weekly blog. I have for 4 years now. Sometimes it gets attention like this, and this one just, I sometimes when you see something is a misjustice, you got to write on it. And this was one that the fingers just actively started typing 90 words per minute, and I couldn't stop typing until I got done and had to go back and re-edit a little bit. But I'm hopeful it goes viral. I really am. I think more people need to understand and watch the video and see what's being proposed for the future of the NCAA. This isn't just a Big West issue. There's 27 other conferences that are impacted by this proposed, and I'm going to say proposed. It's not a final version. It is a proposed future governance governing body of the NCAA Division I moving forward. I mean, this impacts, as you guys talk about, the Mountain West, the Mid-American Conference, the American Athletic Conference. It impacts them just as much as it does us moving forward. As you look at a potential 65% voting threshold for 4 conferences, it's why, and don't get me started singing Hamilton songs. Why are you in the room where it happens if your vote doesn't matter if you're in the room where it happens? That's where the central frustration comes into play. I mean, it's been over 4 years now that I led a group of conferences. I think it was around 17 different conferences signed on board, non-FBS conferences, of course, because we didn't have seats on the NCAA Division I board of directors. Only half of the CCA 22 conferences, which are the non-FBS conferences, get a seat on the board of directors. We rotate on and off every 4 years. So again, major decisions being made on transformation, on the NCAA Constitution at the time, and the significant number of conference presidents and chancellors across the country wanted to be able to have a seat on the board of directors, to be in the room where the ultimate decisions are being made. And that was pushed aside. We kept that one internal, didn't go viral on that one, and it didn't get much traction. Unfortunately, now they're looking to even cut it further. And this, like I said, this impacts even more conferences and institutions across the country. If you think about over 300 institutions that are in Division I will not have a strong vote or a one voice, one vote system of governance in the NCAA, that's truly impactful. And those 4 conferences will determine many potential things moving forward in the NCAA, including the basketball championship format and some of the things that are forthcoming on some of these agendas.
Well, the dramatic shift of power there, and you can't in what the NCAA put out in their little graphs. You have to look at the detail and understand that there's 4 times or something like that the votes for the Power Four. It's not just a seat at the table; it's the weight of the votes at the seat of the table as well. And you mentioned, I mean, you look at the seats for the non-A4, the G6 now. They have only 2 seats at the table, and the FCS has one, and the CCA 22. I mean, it's just a dramatic shift of governance power there. And I got to ask, do you feel like there's and I hate to make this A4 versus everybody else, although
Right.
it seems like that's what they're doing. So I'm going to have to talk about it that way. Do you feel like there's an effort, not just individual efforts by, like yourself putting out a statement? Is there a groundswell within the non-A4 community that we're trying to get this together? We're trying to be on the same page? Or do you feel like it's more just, I hate to say one-offs, but kind of every man for himself type of situation?
The NCAA, the process is moving so quickly, Jason, that I fear that it's going to be more one-offs than a consolidated effort. It's a challenge to try to get multiple conferences involved. With the CCA 22, which is again the non-FBS conferences, we have commissioner meetings every 2 weeks. I currently chair the CCA 22. We have an meeting this coming Monday, and that will be the sole topic on that agenda as I develop the agendas. That will be the topic on that agenda, is looking at this proposed working model, governance model moving forward. And guys, I'll be honest as well. The autonomous conferences have had weighted voting for I think 12 years now, and they haven't done much with it. They could have changed some of the policies and procedures. They could have done some things with their votes over the last 12 years to change the NCAA to potentially determine some things with NIL and other things that are currently going on in the system, but they didn't really pass much autonomous legislation. So again, that's part of the fear here. Not only that they potentially get only 4 conferences get the vote, but their vote will be weighted even more strongly in compared to the current voting systems that are going on now. And in all honesty, as I think you're going to see other commissioners come out of the word work here because of maybe because of what I wrote, but maybe because they want to be a little bold and make sure that their voices are being heard here as well. There's not much difference between the group of 6 conferences and the CCA 22 conferences moving forward. They very much look like us versus them looking like the autonomous conferences. They have serious budget issues, serious NIL. Most of them aren't going to be able to get to the $20.5 million threshold if they could even get to 1/10 that at many of those institutions. So they look very much like us more than they look like their FBS brethren at the A4.
Yeah, great point.
Okay, well, Commissioner, I have a couple questions for you here, a couple follow-up questions, and I want to say, I've been very critical. JY will agree with this. I've been very critical of this House settlement for a while. How I think it's being used. To me, it's the NCAA and the A4 P4. They're using this settlement as a way to basically fix bad behavior or antitrust behavior over the last 10 years, but using it as a backdoor way to get a court to approve a new governance model or a new way of doing things, which in my opinion, they're still going to have the same antitrust concerns. I think it's just more lawsuits waiting to happen. As soon the day after this settlement gets approved, I think you will see, current recruits, future players coming out with new lawsuits. And the judge even said that if future players don't like this, they can sue. Whatever. So I'm very critical of this settlement and how it's being used going forward to set up this governance. So I'll say that first, but I do have a couple devil's advocate type questions for you. With this new governance model that seems like it's coming out, they seem to be in lockstep. The settlement, the new governance is basically dependent on the settlement going through. With how everything is being weighted, with the smaller schools, the CCA 22, the G5, however we want to say it, the smaller schools, you guys are bearing a burden, like you said in your quotes, bearing a financial burden for the bad behavior of the NCAA and the A4 conferences and member institutions. But you're not really getting much out of this settlement going forward in this new governance structure. So why go along with it? Why not just let them go and do their own thing, whether they still stay under the NCAA and have their own tier or they go do their own thing? Why would you guys even agree to this settlement? Is it so important to still be part of one big umbrella? JY and I have said we hope that college athletics can stay under one big umbrella, but is that even feasible going forward? Schools like Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Texas, Florida, their operating revenues. I mean, their football programs are $100 million a year in operating revenue. Does it make sense for them to be under the same umbrella, play under the same rules, or just a structure as a Cal State Fullerton, as a UC San Diego, as a UC Santa Barbara? Why not just split off, let them go do their own thing, and you guys kind of do your own thing that makes more sense for you?
Well, I think it's a great question in many ways, and I think that we've proposed as part of the behind the scenes solutions as we've looked at the potential of future governance models, a bifurcated model that they can choose to do certain things that they want to do and set policies that they want to set on their own, but the remaining conferences have the opportunity to do the same, all while remaining under the Division I umbrella. So maybe we play with a different set of rules, but we're all still under the Division I umbrella. So that is one model that's been put forth. It's made readily available through the FCS 1 AAA links on NACDA website. You can go find those models there, and I encourage people to go back and look at those models as this new proposed model has been put forth through the NCAA working group taking a look at it. But like I said, 1 AAA FCS on the NACDA website. Look for the future governance model, and we've done some really good work over 2 years to try to come forth with that model. And we think it is a solution that can work. But as you've noted, I mean, why don't we just let them take their ball and go do their own thing? Well, that's where I mentioned a bit in the blog that the settlement binds Division I together as part of the financial repayment plan in many ways. If we were to depart, if our institutions were to depart Division I, they still take their financial, the NCAA designated financial penalty with them, or the conference designated penalty, because the conferences can determine the payments structure moving forward as part of the conference bill. We have a total number that's been provided to us by the NCAA, and we can determine how to best pay that back based upon the NCAA revenues that are being withheld. It's not a payment plan. The distributions are being withheld from the conference, so we have to make the determination, and we have done so as a conference, made those plans going forth. But if an institution were to depart Division I, they're still responsible for that financial figure. Whereas if the autonomous conferences were to depart, it's my understanding that they take the full financial settlement with them. So that's what's binding Division I together, is the overall financial structure of the settlement in that respect. I think there's a want, and I've heard it from some of the higher resource commissioners, A4 commissioners, in that respect. There's a want or a concern of institutions coming in from Division III and Division II and continually watering down Division I. I've heard that concern, and I think this is potentially a way for institutions, as they look at the impacts of the settlement, as they look at the potential legislation that could be coming forth down the line, to have institutions reevaluate whether they want to be Division I or want to step down a division and continue to take that financial penalty with them.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting moving forward, assuming the House settlement gets approved and we have some new governance. I'm anxious to see what effect that may have on universities deciding that they just, they individually can't be an FBS Division I school anymore, university, and having to take that step down. We've seen some of that in the past where, universities have taken a step down. I'm anxious to see if that becomes maybe more natural, not natural, but it may happen a bit more, and out of necessity for the finances and things for universities. A lot of schools struggling with the financials throughout the country, enrollment cliffs and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But we won't go down that. We won't go down that road.
No, you're spot on. It's not just athletics that is being impacted. I mean, the Cal States, the University of California systems are all being cut budget-wise across their systems. In many ways, you see the federal legislation, federal government, and what they're doing to institutions across the country. It's not just athletics; it's across their entire ecosystem at their universities. And this settlement impacts even more of the expenses that the institutions are having to bear as part of it. So it is an unfortunate thing that's happening. You're starting to see institutions dropping athletics altogether. Sonoma State, Academy of Arts, some of the other institutions. I mean, Hartford. In that respect, dropping down. So it is a concern as we look at this enrollment cliff a bit, but as the cost of doing business in college athletics continues to go up, I think you're going to see more institutions reevaluating what they're looking at moving forward.
Can I ask another quick follow-up question? So in your blog, you mentioned the A4 having this voting block that's basically you can't break. But that kind of got me, and I understand your point there, but it kind of got me thinking, do you see any opportunity? Because we're looking at the A4 as one big homogenous thing, but it's really not. There's a huge difference between, let's say, an Ohio State and a Wake Forest. So from your perspective, do you see any potential allies within that A4? The Boston colleges, the Wake Forest, the Northwestern, the Vanderbilt, or even, looking out west, Cal Berkeley, who's had major financial issues. Even Stanford, who they've got more money than Oprah, but still they're really committed to having diverse, not just football. They have a very diverse athletic program. We've seen University of Arizona have major financial issues. So do you see any potential allies within the A4, or are they just kind of hopeless lost cause to you?
I'd say it's a two-tier answer. If it was one institution, one vote, absolutely, but it's not. The future voting model is based upon conference votes, not one institution, one vote. So if it was one institution, one vote, absolutely. I think you would see a plethora of institutions that would probably vote with maybe the 22 level conferences or the G6 level conferences, but it's not. But I think the thing that you guys have probably reported on is there seems to be a divide even between the SEC Big Ten and the ACC Big 12 as they look at future models, you see the rumors, and I'm not in the room where it happens in the CFP. I'm fine with not being in that room at this point in my career, but that they've even rumored that 4 AQ bids for the Big Ten and the SEC, there's been a rumor. So if we're looking at that type of pressure in that room, I can only imagine sometimes what the pressure may be on autonomous votes in the NCAA. Maybe that's why there haven't been that many autonomous legislation votes put forth in the last 12 years. So again, that's part of the concern. The fewer voices you have in the room, the more challenging those decisions could be for the bulk of the NCAA Division I, versus at least having every conference have like we do right now, the NCAA Council, where at least every conference has the opportunity to voice concerns on certain legislation before it's passed. And I've been on NCAA Council now for 4 years, and I can tell you that sometimes there's people in the room that could sway a vote just by explaining their situation, their institution's position, their student athlete's position. They can sway a vote. But the more you diminish that diversity in the room, the less diverse the decisions will be made.
But the last question I have, and Steve, certainly if you ever follow up, please do so, but is really just kind of maybe if there's a thought about the main driver of this, and it gets back to Steve's question here and what you just said of potentially, we've talked about a P2 since we started this channel, that we see the Power 2 SEC Big Ten being the by far the main drivers, especially dependent upon what happens with the ACC. We all, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole here with FSU and all that jazz. Everybody knows what's going on there, but it does create an interesting political environment. I'll call it political, but a dynamic between what could become a P2 and the Big 12 and the ACC, where if several of these schools join the Power 2 and they have the control, how much control do they then have over the Big 12 and ACC saying, hey, you need to come along with us if you want to be a part of the A4. And it's almost, you'll have two conferences almost telling the other two what they have to do if they want to remain an A4. Now, I'm going down speculation, but I can almost see that becoming the future where, okay, right now they're selling 4 autonomous conferences, but potentially, while we still may have 4, in a chart, it's really just the Power 2 have complete control because the ACC and the Big 12 won't want to be left behind from the power conferences. Again, speculation on my part. I mean, is there anything that you could point to as the one main driver behind this? Is it power, politics, finances?
Money, naked greed.
Money's always the easy answer, but I'd love to hear from you on, if you feel like there's maybe more involved than just the easy answer, and it could be money. I'm not saying it's not the right answer, but what may be driving this?
I think the guy on your left said it in many ways, and it is the power and influence in many ways. I've been in a room with Greg Sankey. Greg's extremely smart, is very well versed, started out on the compliance side of things and has built an amazing career and an amazing following. And he's a tremendous leader of the SEC. He does everything he needs to do on behalf of the SEC to put the SEC in the best position possible. And that's what makes a commissioner great. You got to fight for your membership. You got to do what you can for your membership. But I think that power and influence of potentially the Big Ten and the SEC, as you talk about, with the ACC and the Big 12, is also part of why the group of six FBS conferences won't speak up on a lot of things or against a lot of things with the CFP, because they know that they're getting money from the CFP. They know they have an access point to the college football playoff, and I don't think they want to shake that bell too loudly and disrupt that bell too loudly, because they don't want to prevent that their student athletes from having that potential access into the future CFP. So I understand it. Again, I worked in the Mountain West for 21 years. I understand the influence that those conferences have, and what the BCS AQ spot, or even getting in the BCS men at the time, years ago, but now that CFP spot and that money coming in is vital to those conferences and institutions. So that's where it's going to be more of a challenge for the group of six to see if they say anything about this future model. But it definitely comes down to, and that's my board of directors. One of the first things they told me when I came on board, when I interviewed, is that one of the biggest problems we've got in the NCAA is coaches' salaries. That the coaches' salaries are out of control. That this is ultimately, the student athletes are going to start looking at it and start looking at other opportunities or looking at other options, and that's exactly what's happened. Obviously, when you're looking at the major money that's coming in from football and the CFP level, what was it? The story that came out last week, the rumor that came out last week, that if the SEC added one more conference game, went up to 9 conference games, they'd get $50 to $80 million more potentially in their ESPN contract. Boys, I'd love to get a tenth of that money in the Big West for all the sports, the 21 sports and 21 championships we play. I don't even get that kind of money from ESPN. So that's the power and influence that football has. It's unfortunate it's currently in the NCAA, and that's significant power and influence. If you took as I said earlier, if you took the football out of it and put all the other sports into it, I think we'd be a heck of a lot better NCAA organization moving forward. And I kind of stand on that.
So I've got to follow up on that for you then, Commissioner, this may be a good way for you to close out. I'm not sure. But so generally we stay away from politics as much as possible. We're a sports show. However, right now, politics and college athletics are intersecting. So it is what it is. Now, so my question for you is, do you feel like all the problems that you've brought up in your blog and we've talked about on the show, do you feel like these are solvable by the member institutions of the NCAA? And I mean all the members, not just those at the top, but including, your CCA 22, all the member institutions. Do you think you guys can come together and find fixes for these, or do you feel that there needs to be some kind of federal intervention, whether it's legislation? We watched Senator Ted Cruz's committee there. He brought up some, I thought, really great points about college athletics, professional athletics, the difference between and the role of government in those and regulating those. We also heard recently about the president starting a presidential commission to look at this. Now, what I would say on that is, and I want to hear your opinion, but I would just say for the presidential commission, I'd rather see guys like you, guys like AD Frazier, the AD down there at UTEP, I keep forgetting his name.
Jim Center.
Then a Texas billionaire booster, myself. But I want to hear your opinion. What do you think? Do you think that we need Congress and the president to be involved, or can you guys figure this out yourself? And what do you hope that comes out of all this?
It's an excellent question. I would tell you, throughout my career that we always did not want government involvement in college athletics. That it would only make it even worse than what the model was. But I think one of the greatest challenges you've got right now is the continued lawsuits that just continue to pile in. You referenced it. If the settlement gets approved, there's probably 20 immediate additional lawsuits that are coming forth as part of it. And ultimately, you've got, I think, 37 different state laws on NIL. And I laugh every time I see something coming out of the SEC territory state. I think it was Louisiana the last 24 hours that just passed new NIL legislation to try to match Georgia's and Georgia and Florida's state rules for recruiting purposes, that they don't have to pay taxes and all this other stuff on NIL monies. I mean, again, as long as you have all these individual states doing all their own individual things, you have all these lawsuits continually piling in. We cannot govern the NCAA without some type of government intervention, whether it's a partial antitrust exemption or what that would be. Right now, the lawyers are out of control, and the NCAA is not in control of its own future at this point. So that's where the government needs to help us get on top of it. And I think once we have some exclusions or some opportunity to maintain and govern ourselves in that respect, I think we can do it. But I just think there's too much external influence right now on college athletics for us to be able to manage it the way we're trying to manage it.
Fantastic. Well, Commissioner, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciated your comments here in your blog. Just real glad that you were able to give us some of your time here today. And we'll be watching the Big West. We'll be watching your members. Open invitation anytime you'd like to join us again.
I appreciate that. Anytime you guys see something you want to talk about, I'll be more than happy to jump back on. Love the show, and obviously a big fan of Western conferences and Western institutions. So I appreciate all that you guys do to promote us.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Again, we thank Commissioner Butterly for joining us here on the Big Mountain. A lot going on in collegiate athletics. It's great to hear from some of these decision makers. With that, hey, we thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like this episode and subscribe if you like our content. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.